Joining us now is a Bedford High School alumni, the Ohio State Buckeyes national champion, former NFL safety, Tyvis Powell joins us on the Sports Parlor Podcast. Tyvis, how are you? Welcome on into the show.
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for allowing me to come on and talk some sports with you guys. I'm really honored and I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, man. Obviously, there's a ton going on. The Cleveland Browns trying to make a little playoff push. Ohio State getting ready for the Rose Bowl. First, let's kick it off here. Let's throw it back to your Ohio State Buckeyes, 2014, 2015. Who could forget that national championship run? It was something special. What made that team so fun?
I think it was the ability that we came together. After we lost to Virginia Tech that year, everybody kind of wrote us off. And the only thing that mattered that year was how would we respond to that? Coach Meyer was adamant to see how we was going to come out and practice that week, because, if you lose the college football, and at that point in time, I think it was the first year of the CFP, so nobody really knew how it would work. But if you lost, it was kind of like it's over with. And for us, that was our first regular season loss. So like for 2 years, obviously we went 24-0 without losing the regular season. So that was our first loss, and it was a home game. So it was deflating. But everybody came back to practice that next week and just put their head down and just kept working. It was just kept grinding. We playing for each other. And no matter what the circumstances was, we was going to find a way to win those games. And obviously we ended up winning it all. So it was a special group.
Now, obviously, some of those situations, there was a lot of adversity. I don't think anybody questions that with all the quarterback changes. Then Cardell Jones coming in to finally get the job done for the Buckeyes to win the first ever college football playoff national championship. What were those weeks of practice like when it was just constantly new guys? And obviously the defense was stacked, on your side of the football. But what was it like with all those different quarterbacks coming in for you guys?
Well, in training camp, obviously, Braxton was coming off of I think he had torn his labrum in the Clemson game the season prior to. So when he was coming back, it would have been training camp. And when he was there, the first day or so, he was fine. It was like, okay, Braxton's back type thing. And then I remember it was close to like towards I think it was 2 weeks of training camp. It was the second week of training camp, I want to say. And Braxton was just doing a routine play. He did his little play fakes and he went to throw the ball and he just like fell to the ground. He fell to the ground. And I remember everybody was like, did somebody hit him or something? And everybody was like, no, ain't nobody touch him. And it was deflating because Braxton was he was electric as a quarterback. Like the man, the stuff that he did, even in practice, it was just like, man, I'm so glad that this man is on our team. So to lose a guy who can run the ball and make all the throws on the field, it was deflating. It was like, oh man, our season's probably kind of in jeopardy. And then JT comes along. JT comes in there. And he's not the same as Braxton by any means, but he's getting the job done. He's getting things done, getting the chains moving, winning games. He got that leadership mentality where he comes in the locker room and he gives you this speech that hypes everybody up. It's like, okay, I could play for this guy. Okay, and then that season goes on. Obviously, he does great. We had that one loss. I think we finished 11-1 that season, and he goes down in the team up north game. And then it's like, man, like, hey, wow. So now a guy who was showing all this promise, he goes down, man. But the thing about Cardell was I was fortunate to be his roommate. So it was like, I knew Cardell. Obviously, I knew him when he was at Glenville. I'm like, I know one thing about Cardell is he could throw that ball. Like, I know we'll be fine with Cardell. So Cardell comes in there. And I think his first start was the Big Ten championship run. And he comes in and he picks up right where a quarterback would be. He starts laying the thing out on the line. He's throwing these deep balls. Devin Smith comes alive. And I think that was like the biggest transition from quarterbacks from JT to Cardell. JT had a good arm, but it wasn't quite like Cardell. So I remember the week, the Big Ten championship week. in practice, Cardale was throwing these deep balls to the receivers because that was their game plan. Obviously, Cardale had the strong arm. We're going to keep the ball outside the middle of the field. We're going to throw it outside the numbers. So the receivers was all of them had hamstring issues because they said they wasn't used to running to go get the ball. Obviously JT arm wasn't as strong as Cardale, so they'd be running down the field like 40 yards. Be like, oh, he ain't throwing it, and then Cardale still bombed it another 30 yards, so they got to go run underneath it. So I remember it was like, man, so we had to put in like scout team players was running wide receiver routes because all our receivers' hamstrings was kind of sore and it was kind of tight. So as a defense, we was like, who is this? Like, I don't even know who these receivers are, but that's what they had to do to make that adjustment. And obviously Cardale went on to get it all done in the end. So it was magical.
See, you guys, Buckeyes got preparing for the Rose Bowl. What do you guys think? What you think the guys going to do against Utah?
Well, I'll tell you what. The one thing is after coming off of that Team Up North loss, I think the number one thing that every Buckeye fan wants to know is this a physical team? Is this a tough team? Because obviously the Team Up North out physical them and stuff like that. So we want to see how they come out, how they respond to that. They've been listening to this media criticism about. I guess the Team Up North OC was like, yeah, we knew they weren't physical. They're a finesse team. You got people around the world calling them soft. So it's about how they come out. This Utah team is physical. The team that beat Ohio State and Oregon, Utah dominated them twice. Like it wasn't even close. So it would be interesting to see if they come to play. Like obviously, if somebody calls you soft for about a month, you want to get back out there. You want to change the narrative because as you know, Phil, somebody ever called you soft, you going out there, you going balls out. Like I'm gonna show y'all what's soft. I think I'm soft. So it'll be interesting to see how that front seven on both sides of the ball with the offensive line and the defensive line and linebackers come to play because Utah is a physical team. They're gonna run the ball and everything that the Team Up North did, it's the same thing that Utah is gonna try to do. So.
Definitely. And the Buckeyes, probably without two of their key guys offensively, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave declaring for the NFL draft, that creates a whole new segment of buzz of, do you care that these college players, are kind of taking their money and skipping out on their final game? I really don't care at all. As somebody that's been in a college locker room, then an NFL locker room, do you care that these young guys that are going to be, first round picks for Garrett, possibly a top 10 pick, are just, kind of skating out on this Rose Bowl here?
It doesn't bother me. I was different. Obviously, in the 2015 Fiesta Bowl, all of us played. Right. And it wasn't even like a meaningful game. And so we all played. But, the thing about it is in that game, we watched Jalen Smith, who was hands down going to be a first round pick. He tore his ACL and his PCL and all type of things. And you watched him go from a first round pick to whatever it was that he landed to. So I think that was one of the things that kind of leads these prospects to saying, you know what, it ain't worth it. Is this bowl game going to change my draft stock? Probably not. They got all these other games to go off of. They got a whole career to go off.
Unless you
that's what I'm saying. Unless you in the championship run, it's not going to do anything. So from that standpoint, it's smart to not play in it because you're not gaining anything out of it. From here on out, it's all about the combine and how you interview with teams. So I don't have a problem with it. These guys did everything they could. They put their lives on the line for all their career at Ohio State. They lucky to even be able to put themselves in a position to even be considered to be in the first round. So they got to protect that. It's about, being able to provide for your family and making smart moves for yourself. So I don't know why people even get upset at people making these decisions.
What you think about CJ Stroud in his first season? What do you expect of him in 2022?
CJ in his first season as a Buckeye was an emotional roller coaster. He was a guy who, and it's funny because all the quarterbacks that was before him is kind of who he's getting compared to. Dwayne Haskins comes in for a year, lights it up. Justin Fields comes in for 2 years, and he's dang near the best quarterback to ever play at Ohio State. So his comparisons to those guys made it unfair for him. This was a guy who obviously he really hadn't been a starter since he left high school. And he came in and he struggled those first couple of games, maybe the first 3 games, I'd say. And it was like a lot of people was like, all right, we need to get a new guy in there. But it was like, this kid is young. He's got to grow. The whole Buckeye team, period, was just a young team. And to watch him grow and develop right before our eyes, it was an amazing thing to watch. He became more poised. He understood the game of football. He started getting real comfortable in the pocket and delivering these balls. He understood the playmakers that he had outside, and he knew if he just gave them a chance that they would make something happen. And it just really allowed him to shine. So I'm really interested to see how he plays in this Rose Bowl because, he went on that Heisman run, and when he went down to New York to do the Heisman ceremony, he received a lot of grief from Aiden Hutchinson and Desmond Howard about, the team up north lost and all that. And then he got to hear about, oh, you only was good because you had all these first-round wide receivers. Well, now he don't have none of those. So it's going to be interesting to see how he responds to that. I think, he's from California. He's coming home. I think he wants to put on a show and put the world on notice that he is a top quarterback in not only this year, but for the years to come. So I think this would be a coming out party for him.
Yeah, definitely. You kind of told us before the show as well, speaking of some of these big time receivers coming from Ohio State, that you're a Browns fan. We see you out there on Browns Twitter. What's going on, man? What's going on with our Cleveland Browns here?
What's going on in Cleveland is that this is the thing. All right. So you got a team who, off season wise, they made all the right moves. They addressed the safety position. They got D linemen. They addressed the linebacker position, and Baker was coming back. All this, the offense was already clicking. So, you would think that Odell was coming back off of injury. So you would think, judging off the success they had last year without all these key pieces that they had, you would think that they would just turn it in, they're kicking the next gear and they just take off in the Super Bowl or bust. But, the thing that we got to remember is that they are some new guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball. There is some new guys there, and things don't always click right that first year. It takes some time to grow. Like, for example, if John Johnson doesn't know how Jadeveon Clowney's going to play because he's never played with them. So he don't know how to play off of them. He don't know what to expect and things like that. So it takes a while for the defense to mesh together. And, luckily, they haven't been that bad. They actually been doing pretty well. As far as the offensive side of the ball goes, Baker is just playing with that. He's playing through those injuries, and it's kind of like hurting the team. I think I would like for him to, try to probably take a step back and allow his injuries or get his surgery and allow Case Keenum or somebody else to come in there because it's been evident. Like, I understand the toughness. I get it. I'm from Cleveland as well. When you're in Cleveland, that's what we appreciate. We appreciate a guy who goes out there, put it on the line. 100% respect him for doing that. But if that is causing you to hurt your team and your chances, then obviously you got to not be selfish enough to take a step back and be like, you know what, maybe I'm not helping this team. Maybe I am hurting this team. Maybe I do need to just get my surgery and stuff like that. And it is not just him. Offensively, it's been games where he actually has played really well, and his receiving core hasn't been that great. Ever since Odell left, they have a problem with getting separation from these DBs. It seems like it's not no deep threats there. I feel like defensive secondaries is playing tight coverage because, they're not asking Baker to throw the ball. They're not asking him to throw it 30 yards down the field or throw these bombs. I mean, he throws a couple a game, but it's nothing major. Right. His passes is usually within that 8 to 12 yard. So it's, and then it hurts the run game because now you got this secondary who's playing up. So now they're aggressive on the run as well. And I just think, it got something to do with play calling. It got something to do with Baker. And it's got something to do with the receiving core. It's a mixture. It's not just one person that I will put the blame on. It's a everybody thing, not just a Baker thing.
For sure. Well, hopefully that they could get themselves right. Obviously, Phil and I want to talk AFC North champion Cleveland Browns. Obviously, need a few things to break their way, but if not, we'll be talking off season, which is something that Cleveland fans are plenty familiar with. Tyvis, man, I appreciate you hopping on the show. You gave us a ton of Buckeye intel, something that we don't have a whole lot of. Go tell everybody where they could follow you and follow you along what could be a sports podcast?
Well, right now you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at @1Tyvis. I currently am doing part-time with the WFAN, the Fan, 97.1 The Fan, in Columbus. I do Buckeye pregame shows. I'll be doing my last one, obviously, for the Rose Bowl, but I pop in and out of the Buckeye show usually from 6 to 8 on weekdays, so you can check me out there.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, and we're sure everybody will go check you out.
Appreciate it.
Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate y'all.